Ahoy, my name is Stephanie. I'm a photographer and designer from Berlin, and I'm presenting work I've done at Microsoft Research in Cambridge and the UC Lab in Potsdam together with Richard Banks and Marian Dörk. With Memory Dialogue, we introduce a methodology for exploring artifact-based memory sharing, focusing on the multi-perspectiveness of different memories as a result of different experiences on the same subject. People with whom we spend time become witnesses of our lives. If two people share an experience, they both keep their very own memory of this experience. These memories are, of course, subjectively different, and yet both are each other's mutual reassurance that this experience did actually happen. If the relationship ceases for any reason, the memories become isolated from one another. So the reassurance disappears, and in some cases it may feel as if the experience didn't take place. As our social relationships are increasingly mediated through digital technologies, we already record and share our memories with people around us through various means. There has been considerable research on human memory and personal, material, and social memory practices through the lens of human-computer interaction. As Oliver Sacks said, memory is dialogic and arises not only from direct experience, but from the intercourse of many minds. We are particularly interested in the dialogic aspect when sharing memories, in the role that artifacts can play in memory sharing regardless of their technological status, and in understanding how dialogic artifact creation can help people to explore the plurality of perspectives in memory. So to preserve memories, we have to share them. To find out how artifact creation and exchange can stimulate memory sharing, we asked 12 participants to select a specific experience they had together, then individually create a physical or digital artifact to represent the shared memory, and exchange the artifacts and reflect on the process. Questions of interest included: what kind of experience would participants share? How would participants share their memories? And what is the potential of artifact-based memory sharing? Our approach combines principles from research through design and research for design, as it aims to expand our knowledge about the design process as well as the creation of unique design artifacts. The memory dialogue process consists of 7 parts. First, the screening. So 12 participants took part, which means 6 pairs. Here you can see 5 pairs of them. And the relationship varied from flatmates and colleagues to friends and couples. Second, the briefing. So booklets were handed out to both of them to introduce the topic and to initiate the process of memory dialogue. I will quickly walk you through. So together, participants were asked to choose a memory that is important to both of them. For example, towards a specific experience they had together, or towards a person they both know, a place or an event they have been to together. It was crucial that participants would share an experience that was personally meaningful to them. In order to encourage selection with less filtering, they have been reassured that highly personal content would not be published if not wanted. So we focused on the participants' reflections on the impact, the process, and the outcome of sharing memory artifacts. Then they had 1 week to individually record their personal memory. So they were free to choose their suitable way, like, for example, text, audio, video, a scribble, a collage. Could be physical, it could be digital, or a combination of it. And after 1 week, we met again for individual interviews to understand their experience of choosing and creating. They exchanged then afterwards the artifacts, explored them individually, and discussed afterwards their thoughts on the received artifacts and on the process. There were 4 high-level themes that we identified: bonding experiences, orienting towards the other, artifacts as conversation starters, and negotiating difference. So remarkably, all shared memories could be described as bonding experiences. Participants emphasized this by describing the memory as intense, significant, or a grinding point. And one participant said, "The memory we chose was the most intimate memory we have. It was the memory actually and that experience together that brought us closer." So the chosen experiences were marked as transformation point from one relationship status to another, like for example from acquaintances to friends, or from roommate to friends, or from friends to a married couple. However, these events were not ceremonial, such as a wedding or moving in together. They were more rooted in everyday life and could be seen as a foundation for strengthening ties. Like, for example, the first trip together, or helping each other with the exams, or the first weekend together in a new town. The participants created 15 artifacts in the range of media, 7 physical and 8 digital artifacts. While this is nearly balanced, the digital artifacts were more text-based, while the physical artifacts were diverse. The participants mostly chose a form for the artifact creation that was comfortable to them, and some participants explicitly chose the digital format to keep a copy for themselves. 4 participants reflected on the other person during the creation of the memory artifact. Others recorded the memory more for themselves. One participant said, "I wanted to do something that was appropriate to what the thing was that we originally made together." So participants who addressed the other person while making tended to create more complex artifacts. As we can also see here, a music piece that was intended to be listened to while assembling a puzzle, and the puzzle was also accompanied with a handwritten note that was commenting on the different pictures used in the puzzle. In all cases, the artifacts served as conversation starters about differences in their memories. Participants were also often surprised how complementary the artifacts were in terms of the format. Like, for example, a text describing the first weekend together, and the other participant had like a comic with the different scribbles, and you could put them next to each other. You could read the text, and then there were like the matching comic parts of it. Or you can see on the other side a physical model and a paper printout of the same object on the right side. The possibility of a joint artifact by both of them was dismissed by 7 participants as potentially problematic. One said, "I personally feel that it's better that they stand by themselves, because it should be each person's perspective on things. It doesn't necessarily have to be merged to be more authentic." And while the participants had very few differences in emotional judgment of the shared memories, there were considerable differences in effort, prioritization, and detail. As the participants had 1 week for creation, they invested different amount of time and effort when creating the artifact. One said, "Depends on the memory. The amount of time that you are investing is relative to the significance, I think." So those decisions may also indicate the importance a memory or the relationship has with the respective person. The participants who considered the other person when creating the artifact invested also more effort. You made the comment about the art gallery. It was a strong feeling. I remember it now. I had forgotten about that. Really? Yeah. I nearly cried. How could you forget? So as you see, some participants had different focuses in their recollection or in detail. In a way, I think it's really sweet that she doesn't remember the big dangerous moment where we nearly died. So while it might set up tensions over aspects that had been forgotten about or remembered differently, overall memory dialogue can be a useful vehicle to share cherished memories, as well as those that are complex, tricky, or hidden. The multi-step process provided sufficient time for participants to individually reminisce and create artifacts presenting their version of a shared memory without constraining the form of the resulting artifact. While it was not our intention to conceive a product or service, the positive responses suggest interesting design possibilities for memory sharing experiences. So the procedure might be translated into something that, like a memory dialogue kit, for example, without a third person leading through the process. And we focused on pairs engaging in the dual conversation. It would be also interesting to vary the range of people involved in the process, like, for example, with families or a group of friends. How would the intersubjective dynamics play out in groups then? So another question could be, how would the artifacts be created and perceived if they were meant to be exchanged as standalone artifacts without the prompt conversation as we had in this case here? So one could say that the artifacts empowered an exchange of memories in the sense of reminiscing through design. And the format might help to playfully create a way to talk about things that are otherwise difficult to discuss. And furthermore, we hope that this will inspire future research on memory sharing and dialogue artifact creation. I want to finish with a quote one participant said: "I don't think that it's necessary that your memories are the truth. It's two developed narratives that may or may not have existed, but what is important is the connection." I would like to thank the HXD group at Microsoft Research Cambridge for their support during the project, in particular Abby Sellen and Sean Lindley, and my co-authors Marian Dörk and Richard Banks. I would also like to thank Debelina Chattopadhyay, Katja Dittrich, Susanne Draheim, and Roman Redle for their helpful feedback during the project. And special thanks to the participants for entrusting us with their memories. Thanks.
We have 8 minutes for questions.
Oh, was really quick. I think one thing is also like to have a more diverse group, because as you could see in the beginning, I had like 2 women and 10 men, and also like the very homogeneous in like the social ecological background. And no, is it the right word? Yeah. As I said, also to vary the group, like not just 2 people, but like maybe 3 or 4 people, also have like a family passing on like experiences from the older generation, for example, to the younger generation. This could also be a very interesting field to go. Yeah.
Any ideas on how some of this design methods could be translated into traditional platforms like Facebook?
I think it could be, but I kind of like the idea of not having, so to have like various kinds of formats, like not only the digital format, but also like the hybrid format. And of course you could use Facebook as a vehicle, but I think I kind of like it that also the grandmother who's maybe not used to use internet could take part in this process, as well as children who are like digital born. So yeah, I like to have it more open. Yeah.
Hi, Colin Ford with the University of California, Irvine. I'm interested in, so we know that generally objects that are ready-made can serve as really important conduits of memory, right? Like a family heirloom or a piece of furniture or a piece of jewelry, right? But I'm interested in your study because these are objects that the participants had made themselves, right? So can you talk a little bit about the difference between, or the potential differences between ready-made memories from ready-made materials versus memories from materials that you've created yourself?
I think one participant, for example, kept the receipt of this very special evening. So some of them had photographs or they had artifacts. and some of them also used those artifacts and kind of implemented them in their new artifact. Others just used their memories to create this new artifact. And I think it was interesting that they also kind of didn't really want to merge them. So they wanted to have the other artifact or the other memory that was accompanied with the artifact, but they didn't want to have like a combined artifact. And I think, yeah, I'm not sure if this answers the question, but I think I think there were like some of them also didn't have any artifact that was from the experience they had together, and they just used the memory to create this new artifact. Yeah, it's also interesting that, for example, I did this before I went to Microsoft Research, also with some friends of mine, and what the interesting thing about it was that I have the artifacts, but I didn't open them. So till now, I didn't really look them up. So for me, it's just good to know that I have them. I have their version of this memory. And maybe there will be the point when I open it and I will look into it, but not for now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Josh Tannenbaum, also from UC Irvine. This is really lovely work. I'm curious, I think one of the things that's really beautiful about this is the dialogical nature of it, the way these people's memories are in conversation with each other. But I'm curious if you've given any thought to the experience of encountering one of these memories in a context of somebody you're a stranger with, or somebody you don't have this shared dialogue with, whether there's a way of preserving memories beyond just that personal relationship.
You mean like exchanging those kind of experiences with a stranger?
Or say I came upon a collection of these artifacts that had been exchanged through this process. Is there a way of preserving the meanings that were particular in that dialogue for somebody who wasn't a
like
member
example,
of it?
both of us, for example, would share something now without knowing each other. Did I understand the question? Or?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you mean how could there be a way that we could also go through this process?
I'm curious, so like objects become particular when we own them or make them, right? They accumulate this specificity when we exchange them or go through this process.
Yes.
But objects then persist beyond the relationship, right? So these objects that are exchanged, maybe your child finds them 10 years from now.
Yes.
What does it mean to that child?
Yes.
Is there a way to think about the meanings that accumulate with
yes.
those objects?
Of course, I mean, when it's, for example, this object, or this is hard to read for you, what it means to me, right? It could be, so this is a clock from my grandmother, but maybe it's just more like we saw earlier, this artifact where, for example, it's also hard for you to understand maybe what this is here.
Right.
So when it doesn't come with a note or with something that is textual, then it's hard to read for others. For both of them, of course, they can interpret this and they can kind of read into it what it could mean. But if, for example, their children would find this object and it doesn't come with a note or something, then, of course, it depends on if the grandfather or the father told the story to them with the artifact together so that they have the knowledge. Otherwise, it's just an object and you could throw it away without knowing what it really meant to your parent, for example.